connect that here and there. So as we read, I think each sentence is a summary here. There is no explanatory thing. So each one needs to be understood and then analyzed, I think. So that's how I look at it. There are two things. One is the chakras are, I can say, simulate in some areas how
The
it
body.
is explained by Ramakrishna and other literature I have read. And also the other things. As we go through, we can come to those areas, I think.
So what do you propose? Do you want to read? Because you can if you're comfortable, and keep bringing out those aspects line after line. Or you can stop me, or I can pause, whichever way. Because let's make the best of it.
I can stop you. That would be better.
Okay, sure. So
I can
jump
stop
in.
you, but you should listen.
Knock. No, that's why I thought maybe he should read himself, because I just keep going. Yeah.
The first paragraph itself, the explanation of this ocean is in a different way as we have seen till now.
Yes.
Bottomless, topless, shoreless.
So the last line summarizes it, right? So if we take away the tri-dimensional limitations which obtain in the earthly ocean, right? Anyway, so I'll read the first and stop. So I'm, are you able to see my screen? Sorry, hold on. From eternity to eternity, is it on screen?
Yes.
Page 77. Yeah.
Yes.
I can't find.
So is it showing up for everybody? I'm starting.
Yeah.
Star Meher Baba ki jai. From eternity to eternity, God, who is the sole reality, is comparable to a shoreless ocean. The biggest ocean on earth has shores and is accordingly limited. But the ocean of the divine life has no shores. There is yet another important difference between the earthly ocean and the ocean of divine life. The earthly ocean has a surface and a bottom. I think I request everybody to go on mute. The ocean of divine life has neither surface nor bottom, and yet the analogy of the ocean is one of the closest conceptual approaches to God, if we take away the tri-dimensional limitations which obtain in the earthly ocean. So Baba, of course, uses this parallel very, very frequently. Go ahead, Mama.
This is a constant example used in Vedantism also, and Ramakrishna refers to this repeatedly. And one more aspect, what is added there is, if you imagine the ocean in the Arctics, so there are a lot of ice, and then they have a lot of shape. So he tells that Sakara to Nirakara, you can imagine there. So you have the shape in water also as they crystallize, and then as they dissolve, it becomes Nirakara also. That is one more aspect added to this ocean comparison. And this shoreless and say bottomless and topless, that is the first time I have heard, and it gives the expansion into the cosmos of the imagery of the ocean. So as I was thinking earlier, ocean means what we see as a ocean. But if you expand that vision, it is shoreless means there is eternity to eternity. There is no limitations here. So all that aspects are brought in here.
True.
Yes.
Baba mentioned it somewhere.
Yes.
Speak up.
Not able to hear.
Yeah, you have to speak up.
Yeah, Baba himself mentioned it somewhere. It's like avatar is like coming from steam to H2O. Directly from steam to H2O.
Yes, yes.
H2O, sorry.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I have not slept, so forgive me for everything.
Okay.
Oh.
I
So
believe
Baba
that
said this. It's avatar is direct from steam to
Yes.
H2O. So that's how avatar descends.
um, from my understanding, basically, when we look at this whole concept of God and soul and Paramatma and so on and so forth, there are two ways of looking at it. What I call as the top-down approach. Now, God speaks, and spiritual panorama is a top-down approach, where we start. Let's go back to the 10 states of God. Okay, so the top-down approach is state one of God, which can't be defined. Okay, indescribable. State two of God before the whim is what this description is all about. The limitless ocean, bottomless ocean, which means infinite.
Infinite.
Now, the interesting thing is that um, uh, this bottomless ocean, when you're talking about avatar, see, we have to define each and every word in its context. So when Neha is talking about avatar, now you have to remember the definition of avatar is God in human form, which means
Yeah,
Saguna
yeah,
Sakar,
yeah. This. Yeah, yeah. I got it. I got it. I got it.
attributes with
Yes.
form.
This is
Now,
not the.
when we right now,
Got
when
it.
we again
Sorry.
look back at state one and state two, you have to remember that state two has three substates. This is where God speaks. Baba says that this is the differentiation between state one and state two. Divide state two into the three substates. Now, technically, when the whim happens, only two things happen: state one and state 2A, which is infinite unconsciousness, and state 2B, which is infinite consciousness. So, when we go back to the chapter on avataric thing in beams, there is this phrase called uh, um, eternal avataric infinite consciousness. Now, the state to be is nirguna nirakar, that is attributeless and formless. So, as we have read about the avatar, when the first soul from the Big Bang, from the hope point, became a human, like all the human beings, out of that, the first soul that became self realized was because the avatar descended from the Nirguna Nirakar to Saguna Sakar. He descended into the first human soul, and that first human soul is defined as the avatar. So, this is my understanding of this whole concept of avatar. And so, that is why the infinite consciousness in Nirguna Nirakar form is called Paramatma, Allah, God. But actually, Paratpar Parabrahma, the beyond state of God, is indefinable even by the Sadgurus and avatars, unless each one of us can experience, nirvana or nirvikalpa samadhi. So this is the differentiation. State one and state two are completely similar, except when the whim happens, then you have duality, which is infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness. And the last thing we have to remember is that as soon as the whim happens, the divine dreams happens, the divine illusion. So this is all illusion. So the only real state is the beyond God state, and state two before the whim. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Great, and I think I like the extension of the icebergs, which is the form, right? And
Yes,
then
yes.
the form also is just a state change that is temporary, right? So then it can go back to the formless, which is the ocean. So I think this was very interesting. Yeah. I continue. The shoreless ocean of divine light has its existence in eternity. It has neither beginning nor end, nor is it sandwiched between the ever lengthening shadows of the past or future. And yet, an incomprehensible divine game precipitates within its being a cosmic or transcendent illusion. This illusion is so unsubstantial that it can have no justification or standing ground in the indivisible and unalloyed reality of God. It exists by sort of sufferance or tolerance. It comes into existence in the same manner. and ultimately it vanishes like a nightmare which leaves no vestige after a man is fully awake. So,
Go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, so I think here the comparison is to the apparent realism that a dream gives to us, and the clarity when we get up, right? So when we are in the dream, we are absolutely convinced it is me, and I get hit or I get hurt or I get immense pleasure, but then it vanishes as and leaves no vestige when you're awake. So I think that's all mentioned here. That's the whole illusion, rather. That
Yes.
But he's also talking about the incomprehensible divine game.
Yeah.
So
correct.
I have a question to the participants. If God, okay, now if God is infinite knowledge, infinite power, infinite bliss, why does he have to know himself? You know, there was somebody who asked me this question: why does an intelligent God has to know himself? It's a paradoxical thing, you know, almost like an oxymoron. God is supposed to know everything, right?
Mhm.
So why does God need to know who am I?
One explanation for that is it is referred to as a Leela. He wants to play a game.
Yes.
Correct.
I think more than that, I like that's one of the gnawing questions that I've had from the very beginning, even before coming to Baba, right? So I think I like the concept of how he describes in the first chapter of Beams on the whim. He says that part is inexplainable. It's yeah, the why of it is simply because for a whim there's no explanation. You can't say why you got a whim. On a whim you do something like that. That whim is unexplainable. But I look forward to your explanation, Kama. What is it? Or
So you're correct. I think you're right. Sometimes you can't ask the question why, because you will keep going on in circles,
it's a
infinite
recursion
circles.
that never ends, right? So it's a
Okay,
recursion that keeps going.
absolutely. The fact of the matter is we are born, we go to sleep, we wake up, and we have to deal with the nitty-gritties of life. That is very much real. Okay. Like if somebody pinches us, we can feel the pain. But I think the interesting thing is when this question was asked to me from a guy in Almora, when I was living in Almora between 2010 to 14, he's also an engineer from Roorkee and quite senior to me. And he asked this question, you know, and believe it or not, without any pause or thinking, the answer that came to me was it wanted to amuse itself, which
Yes,
relates to
Like
what Doc Mama
that's true.
says.
exactly
Yeah.
what Mama said. Yeah.
And the second
And
thing I want to say is that when you extrapolate our own life, imagine the sleep state and only sound sleep state. Let's say we don't have dreams because we have let's say we are hypothetically in, as Baba says, in cheerfulness, contentment, enthusiasm, and equipoise all the time in the waking state. So when you go to sleep, you don't have any worries. You have complete sound sleep state. So as soon as you wake up in the waking state, I personally feel like an actor, like going for a shooting. I get up in the morning, put on my uniform, and now if here we are sitting in this reality show. Basically, this is a reality show where we are all actors, and the only thing you have to do is to act according to the laws of nature, the divine laws. So this is the way I look at this whole Leela. You know, it's like a divine sport or like a divine romance. You know, when you're dealing with people, you have to be very aware how you respond or react. Or when you are in the streets, you know, walking around in different cities, it's like playing a ball game. It's like being on a field, you know, playing football or hockey, and you maneuver yourself. You know, so this is my analogy of this whole whim or divine game. You know, Jai Baba.
Sure.
Sure.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Yeah. Eternity arrives at itself through the fleeting gradations of the manifest aspect of evolutionary forms. They are precipitated by the limitless unconsciousness trying to grasp the limitless consciousness of shoreless divinity. That's within the states of two. The limitless unconsciousness first descends into the grip of delusion in 7 steps. For the unconsciousness as such, there can be neither knowledge nor illusion. Therefore, it has to develop consciousness by extremely gradual stages, and this development of consciousness starts with the most minute degree of consciousness, which is characteristic of the most rudimentary forms. Just as a man who is in deep sleep may awaken in very gradual stages, the manifested unconsciousness arrives at full consciousness in 7 important steps. But to arrive, sure.
These 7 steps of evolution is the descent.
Yes.
Explained here.
Correct.
And there are 2 sevens here. One is the 7 gases and then the 7 forms. That's how you can see 14 actually. That's how I see it. This is the descent part of it, and how the forms are created, and gradually consciousness increases in them to come to the fullest extent in the human form.
Correct. Yes. But to arrive at full consciousness in the human form is the very antithesis of arriving at full knowledge of the shoreless divinity. The downward descent through 7 steps, consisting of gradual opening of the eye of consciousness, means a fall into the veritable depths of the valley of illusion. So if you look at the chart, the valley is at the bottom. So it's like, if it's a 3D visual, I think he would have wanted it like this: the descent by 7 steps, and then the ascent as 7 steps, and the valley of illusion is in the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of 7 strides, evolution has succeeded in encaging consciousness in unending delusion. Man is at the very bottom of the abyss of illusory existence. He goes on taking millions of incarnations in this shadowy valley without being able to find a way out of the separative ignorance in which he is caught. After eons of participation in futile bungling, he starts to grope into the deceptive mazes of illusory values. I think at this time we'll just go back and see that chart itself. So if you look at it, it's clearly an attempt. The shading is an attempt to bring that 3D element, which is that you're going down, and a human firmly in the grip of Maya doing his millions of reincarnations, and then he climbs up to God, right? And the
here actually it is not going down in the bottom. It is climbing up from God. That is, you are imagining that you are climbing up. You are in Maya, you are going down. So that is also played here, I think. From God to Maya is the
downward.
Actual we are climbing up as per the picture.
Correct.
But it is the descent.
Correct. And there is a small difference in the way the stairs are, if you look at it, right? So
yes,
maybe one is going down.
Yeah, I have a small
there is one more explanation. Sorry, Samira. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I have a feeling that God in the first state, that you have God on both sides, right?
Yes.
And this God, I mean, when you go down, I feel that means, you're moving from the gaseous thing to water to the different states, then finally taking the human form. And then once you're fed up of, everything and all the Maya and all that, then you descend towards, then you go up towards, the 7 steps. So
yes.
I feel that these 7 steps which go down are not really in the human form, but are in all the different states of animals and gas and this and that, till you become
you're right.
Till you become engrossed in Maya and you are a human being, and then you're fed up and you start ascending.
Yes, and the steps, as I look in the square shown in the bottom, it is the increasing consciousness as we start from the gas to the human form. That's why they are not steps actually. Whereas
there is another explanation to it, that whether you go up or down, you will reach to the God.
God.
Eventually, you will reach to the God.
We
No, you
are
are
God.
God. It's
We are
just you are
God,
God.
but we are
It's an
not aware
illusion.
of it.
Yeah, it's illusion.
Yes, yes, it is
God's
an illusion.
whims.
Yes.
Ah,
You know.
See, as Doc Mama said, first of all, it's a Leela.
ah,
Correct.
It's a
whim.
divine dream. Second is at the bottom when you see God, that is state one and state two of God. State
yes.
one is that beyond God state, which is the divine vacuum, and where the latent whim, infinite consciousness, infinite unconsciousness, duality is all latent. And he's also mentioned, if you remember, all these things, whim, consciousness, infinite and consciousness and infinite unconsciousness, these are all the nothingness of the nothing in the everything.
Yeah, that book is fabulous, and nothing and the everything
Okay.
and the everything and yeah.
So then the 7 steps of descent is basically the evolution stages.
Yes.
And the 7 steps after human is the 7 stages of involution, the 7 planes.
7 planes.
And the other explanation that was given in discourses is this whole journey, which is a dream, is God going from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity.
Yes.
And one final thing which I would like to read, which we have read in God Speaks, it's on page number 142, 143. It says, God is existence eternal, infinite, and all pervading. Since God is eternally infinite existence, it follows that there are an infinite number of states of God, infinitely and eternally existing. But fundamentally, there are only 2 states of God, the original state and the final state. The original state is the beyond state of God, where eternally God is and consciousness is not. The final state is the beyond state of God, where consciousness is eternally of the God is state of the beyond state of God. So this is a little bit, tongue twisting, but if you look deep into it, it kind of defines this whole journey.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, Baba.
God to God.
Yes, from
With
unconscious
consciousness.
divinity to
Yes.
conscious divinity. That's it.
Yes.
It correlates very well with the 10 states of God.
Yes.
From the center of
Yes.
the picture on 10 states of God at stage 3 in the evolution, there are 7 states before you become human being.
Correct.
And then you evolution towards God back again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were here, right? His long drawn sojourn, the third paragraph, 79. Yeah. His long drawn sojourn through the wilderness of dual existence.
Just increase the fonts, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. His long drawn sojourn through the wilderness of dual existence is a story of repeated blunders, ever tightening the grip of ignorance on his consciousness. An easy prey to the guiles of Mayavic mirage, he gets enmeshed in its clutches. He goes astray in the feverish dreams of his vitiated imagination, with little prospect of launching on his homeward journey. However, by a stroke of good luck, which is God's grace, he may stumble upon an exit through these mazes and get a glimmer of the limitlessness of the real. But just at this juncture, he proves vulnerable to the temptation of becoming a pretentious and preposterous claimant, sailing under false colors and arrogating to himself the truth of his dim perception. It is an abortive attempt at seizing the truth. He covered this aspect in depth in the Jingoism chapter, spiritual Jingoism, and of course in God Speaks in the 4th plane. He only succeeds in being a magniloquent imitation, puffed up with invalid claims. he encroaches upon the fields of the real saints, bluffing each and all whom he meets. But he is thereby only fooling himself, and he moves further into the grips of the false. Only the intercession of some compassionate master can initiate him into the real and arduous path. This path also consists of 7 stations or planes. See the chart depicting the 7 upward steps or planes to be climbed with the eye of consciousness now fully open. The emanation of the world is, as it were, a descent from the navel of a man along one leg. The reincarnations of the soul in human form are a wandering into the wilderness of Maya between the legs of a man, and the onward ascent of consciousness through the planes to the realization of the original infinite beyond is like the slow and gradual ascent of an ant along the other leg back to the navel from which the creation started. The navel represents the Om point of creation. After transcending this point, the duality of the creator and creation is sublated. The portion above the navel is like the beyond, where there is conscious enjoyment of the shoreless ocean of divinity. I think the Vedantic, I think I relate to what you said in the chakras. I was reminded of this when we read about it.
There are 2 aspects. One is navel and the birth of Brahma from navel.
Nabi here, yes.
Starts off Nabi, and that starts off the whole creation as per the Vedantic view.
Correct.
So that is quite imagery here. And then the chakras, in the chakras, if I remember correctly, whatever little I have read about it, the bottom portion, there are 2 chakras between the navel and the anus.
Yeah.
Yes.
After that, we go through the say chakras which represent the higher plane, the ocean of milk, ocean of curd. It is all referred to like that. So as we go higher up, so this is the planes where 3rd, 4th, 5th planes they are represented there, and this crawling of this insect or ant. And play of monkey going through a canal is the imagery given of the play of this ascent in different planes and coming back to the lower plane, then once again jumping up to another plane. All this monkeying happens, and the master is required to say control this and then bring him up to the planes of higher planes. All that is in the imagery I had read. Now it is quite clear as what is put here, so that we need a master to help us in our journey beyond the 3rd plane, I think, up to the plane what we are now. Going up from there is only through say prayer, and once we have reached a point, we need the master to help us go beyond that. That is how I look at it. So all this whatever we experience in the gross world is below the navel. In this picture what he has told, say the descent in one leg, and then in between the leg there is this Maya or the world, and then the ascent in the other leg. It's quite great image for me, imagery. Okay, yes, any comment?
Yeah, I think to extrapolate what you said, I think the chakra points in Kundalini Yoga also. Now, as you rightly said, this is the 3rd point, and I have been a Kriya Yoga practitioner, where in one of the exercises you are supposed to repeat Om focused on the navel. The navel is the fire chakra, basically. And this is a point that in many meditation practice, they ask you to, whenever you have fear, if you meditate on the navel chakra, it will remove all kinds of fear, especially when you are going through hospitalization, when you're recovering from a hospital surgery, this is a great place to concentrate your breathing and mind when you want to, kind of recover from your illness, or if there is any kind of psychological fear. So this is what I've understood.
I always thought that the Om point was the heart. I'm quite surprised that in this, the Om point is the navel, which, yeah, maybe the navel is the beginning, but I always, during in the chakra thing, you always put the Om point in the heart, right? Near the heart.
That is the first experiential plane. So the planes below that, we are already experiencing the gross world. But the higher experience, first time you get only in the heart point. That's why they give importance to that, and then say you reach there and then you can go ahead.
No, but I think the Nabi has a lot of imagery even in creation, right?
Nabi is the birth point.
Exactly, exactly. But also the Omkara, the way you are able to even say Om, is from the Nabi. So you'll have to make the sound.
Yeah, it starts from your Nabi, moves to your heart, goes to your head, and comes out through your heart.
Exactly. So there's a lot of multiple dimensions of symbolism in this part, right? So all of it, all cultures respect that. I mean, when I say all cultures, even in Christianity, there is a reference to, in the first there was the word, right? And Baba himself confirms how Amen, Om, and Amin are all the same, right? And in the first word was Amen, and the first word was basically Om. So even in creation, the first came the sound, and then the gaseous forms or whatever, right? So in that, so multiple dimensions of visualization can be made up from here, from this para.
Yes, all the understanding of these disjointed things which I had learned here and there, coming to a gradual, say, point where I can go ahead and understand things better. That is the real revelation yesterday when I read this chapter. So whatever I had learned till now, here and there, tidbits, Baba is putting them into some sort of a structure and telling me this is how you have to look at it.
Great.
Thanks, Baba.
Great.
Is it also possible that this navel is also, when the baby is born, the umbilical cord is cut, and the Om point is what refers to the whim. The whim happens at, when the whole creation starts, it's from the Om point. So in a way, from the navel, then when we become self-realized, we kind of go to the heart. So it is like a symbolic representation that the navel is the Om point when the whim happens, and then you go through this whole process of evolution and involution. And one more thing in the diagram that I had an insight was, when you saw that the steps are increasing from the Om point till the human being, it is like the sanskaras are being winded, the winding sanskaras, which becomes maximum till the human state. And then from the human state, when you go to the seventh plane, the sanskaras are being unwinded. So that's why it starts to narrow down. So this is what I kind of thought it represents, the diagram.
True. So now we'll go to our interesting Pratapgarh. We'll go back. In the gross world as well as in the inner planes, places, states, and experiences are interlinked with each other and yet should be regarded as separate from each other. This is particularly true of the inner planes. Places, states, and experiences all tend to be fused with each other on the higher planes. And the trio, as trio, disappears in the unitary realization of the seventh plane. Let us see how places, states, and experiences are interlinked with each other in the gross world as well as on the inner planes. Suppose you go for a while to Pratapgarh. This change of place brings with it a change of state in you. Your general tone of mind is different. At Pratapgarh, you also have experiences which you would not get at another place. Change of place brings in its train a change in the state of mind, and both of these result in a change in the nature of experiences felt at this new place. Just as a change of place in the physical world is linked with changes in the mental state and gathered experiences, an ascent to a plane also brings about changes in stages and experiences. An ascent to a plane means a change in the standing ground of consciousness. It is a change of place. It therefore brings with it the changes in states and experiences. But the changing states and experiences which accrue from the change of plane are radically different from the changing states and experiences which accrue from wandering in the gross world. The qualitative difference is enormous. However, in the planes also, we have the interlinking of places, states, and experiences, all these remaining separate from each other up to a particular point only.
Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
I'll continue. How the places, states, and experiences tend to get fused into each other, and how their initial separateness comes to be gradually obliterated may be illustrated by an example, which does not involve a change of plane, but which consists merely of a change of state within the normal range of gross conscious souls. When a conscious person has a dream, he has, as in his waking state, an experience of some place and also of some mental state and experience associated with it. But the place, mental state, and experience with which a person is confronted in his dream do not have the same externality or separateness which characterize them in wakefulness. It will be very artificial and even misleading if we try to separate the place in the dream from the state and the experience connected with it. Though such separateness presents us with no difficulty when we are concerned with the place, state, and experience in gross conscious wakefulness.
If
Sure.
Here, this paragraph, the dream state, you experience something different, and that is not the truth in the gross world. So this, as you increase your dream, say if you think like this, you are in a different plane and different state and different experience. And as you grow along these lines, you are in the dream all the time. That means you are going to a second plane or a next plane and living off the gross. This is how you can imagine things, what happens in a, say, awakening person. So he keeps on now and then going into dream, and then keeps himself in the dream for a longer period, and then say he ultimately lands in dream itself and then leaves the gross. This may be the way we gradually tend towards the other planes. And if I am allowed to take an example amongst ourselves, Nobita is in some times goes into these, I think, experiences of, say, extreme happiness or emotions when she is with Baba or in prayers, and then comes back to the gross. And let her increase it, and she will keep moving ahead. That's how I look at it. It may be a mistake. This is what came to my mind. I am just expressing it. If I hurt somebody, please excuse me.
Jai Baba.
Any comments on this? Everybody is silent. Kama, is my idea holds good? How we ascend from this plane to the next plane? Maybe visualize.
Actually, if you are in the gross world, I think when you really start moving, I mean, this is also, I mean, I'm just saying it. If you start moving, you see in everybody, you start seeing the union, you start seeing God, or you see yourself. So
Yes.
it's not a differentiation between the gross world and the imagination. You become that. So you don't have to move into a dream, or you don't have to go into an illusion. In that sense, you become one with everything.
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's another angle we can look into. Yes.
Correct.
It's because everything is an illusion. I mean, gross is also an illusion. You're part of Maya, right? So
Yes.
getting being in the awake state, once you start seeing, you start seeing Baba in a tree, in your little dog at home, in yourself, in your plant, in everything, you become part of him. And you say, this person who's hungry, how can I have some 10 saris when somebody else, see, I love saris. Okay, I'm going to give you a stupid example. So,
Okay.
I start feeling like a criminal that, see, I have 10 saris and this person is naked. Though, so you slowly start extending yourself. That is also you moving out of an illusion. This is just an example. I mean, a bad example, but
No, very good example. Baba
Very
also
good.
talks about this. I'm not able to exactly get the reference. He has used two Sufi terms. One to say, I see Baba, divinity in everything. And in the next stage, I go to a stage where I am part of that divinity as well. So he's actually definitively described what you just described. So it's in the journey of the planes where you go and see the fact that you are able to recognize and acknowledge divinity in everything around you. Okay.
Yeah, you lose your ego. The most important thing is
Yes.
that, this I and you ego. See, basically what we understand is, because we are in a little well, okay, we are little frogs. We can only understand according to our own perception, because we are in that little well and we are little baby frogs. You can't think beyond till he gives you that thing, So I'm not explaining properly, but what I'm trying to tell you is, still we are. It's just it's not a question of gross. It's a question of your awareness, which he moves you into those different planes.
Correct.
Samira, come on screen at least. They should know whom they are talking to.
Okay. I'm still trying to, today's
I
the
think
first
all
one
are
using the
new here,
iPad.
so to you.
One second. I don't know. I'll try.
Okay. Any other inputs? Comments?
I was cut off from the net for the last five minutes. What was the question again? Sorry.
No, I was telling that this dreaming,
Yes.
is it a step towards going to the higher planes? You start dreaming and then your dreams increase, and then actually you live in the dream and then forget about the gross. Is this way we go upwards?
You mean to say the dreams in your during the reincarnation state or the involution states?
Reincarnation.
Okay, you mean to say at the gross plane level, not
Yes,
at the subtle
right.
or mental?
Yes, no, going to the subtle or mental planes
Involution.
from the gross is
Correct.
indicated by the deepening of dreams. Say, as you dream to different experiences, different states, places, and experiences, and this, as it deepens, you are more in the dream all the time, and then not much in the gross. That is the way we ascend. Is it the way?
No.
Yes. Actually, what you're saying is that right now we are in the gross world and we are experiencing gross, the phenomenal world of developed forms. And as soon as we enter the subtle, that is the first plane is the threshold between the gross and subtle. The second and third plane are the subtle world. So naturally, you will have different kinds of experiences. There's a different world out there which we can't imagine now unless you are in that state.
Okay.
And similarly, when you go into the fifth and sixth stage within the mental world, as Baba says, in the fifth plane, you're more about thoughts, and in the sixth plane, you're more about feelings. And in the sixth plane, you are able to see God everywhere, but there's still the duality between subject and object. So uh, ultimately, both the evolution and involution state are dreams, are illusions. Yes, correct. That if I understood your question.
Anyway, we'll go ahead. I think we'll think over these things for further clarity.
Sure. So I
Yeah.
think the specific reference Mama had was about this last paragraph, and then how that the way the dream is explained here would be in more vivid forms as you. I mean the progression through ascension through the planes would be more vivid experiences like a dream. I mean that's what I understood.
Yes,
Anyway.
I think yes, it becomes much more intense. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That's what he was saying. So I agree with that. So I'll continue. The example of the dream is merely suggestive of how a place need not invariably stand outside the state and its experiences. However, what happens in a transition to another plane of consciousness is very different from what happens in the dream. In the divine hallucinations of the subtle planes, as well as in the spiritual nightmare of the mental plane, there is a growing tendency towards fusion of the experiences which are normally separated from each other in gross wakefulness. In fact, the integral fusion on the seventh plane is so complete that there we cannot have any places, states, or experiences. Life there is lived only in its indivisibility. The illusion, which gives room for changing places, states, and experiences, has itself disappeared on the seventh plane of realization. But as long as the mind exists, the illusion also exists, even up to the very sixth plane, although the type of illusion which exists on each plane may be different. Mind is subject to imagination. It imagines and experiences imagination through places and states which imagination creates. So long as mind exists, imagination also persists, and the imaginary places, planes, states, and experiences also continue to engage the mind. Just as in the gross world, there are places, states, and experiences. There are imaginary places, states, and experiences on the subtle and mental planes. Yet, in both cases, they belong to the illusion created by imagination. Very important. So, even I think he refers to this even in God Speaks. He's again confirming that there are imaginary places, states, and experiences still of illusion, but in the subtle and mental planes. Right?
Yes, go ahead.
However, when the illusion exists, there are within it six ingredients, namely time, space, law, nature, cause, and effect. Of these six factors, law and nature are most important. Evolution depends on these six factors, and its working is clock like and without any deviation because of the unfailing interplay of these six factors. Although illusion is the product of imagination, the evolutionary working within that illusion goes on exactly as it should. The determinism is complete. So, any
That
comment?
these last 2-3 sentences, science is perfect, or science does things on its own, but it is an illusion. That's what we have to understand. Although illusion is a product of imagination, the evolutionary working within the illusion goes on exactly as it should. Determinism is complete.
It's complete.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, yes.
That's a good way of putting it, right? So within the scientific realm, it's all perfect, but then that whole thing is illusion.
Oh, he is an illusion. Okay.
Perfect.
So even the dreams have their own laws.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll continue. On the seventh plane, the mind does not exist. So that's where the mind is absent. Hence, there are no places, states, nor experiences in God realization. Just as such, places, states, and experiences are absent in the infinite unconsciousness. What exists in God realization of the seventh plane is just uninterrupted and indivisible consciousness without any form of burden or limitation. With his back to the false and evanescent and his gaze firmly fixed on the goal of shoreless divinity, an aspirant traverses the path through spiritual planes with security if he has the help of a master of wisdom. And when he sheds his illusion completely, he finds that his mysterious sojourn has been from eternity to eternity. Request everybody to go on mute. There's a lot of noise. From God to himself. But it is not an arrival at the same point. In the shoreless divinity of the eternal reality.
If I
Yeah,
interrupt
sure.
here, you can imagine in the diagram you are in the center with your back to the bottom and looking up. That is how you have to imagine this.
Correct. Yeah. In the shore. Go ahead.
I don't know, probably this where the mind doesn't exist in the seventh plane is a reference to Manonash.
Manonash, yes.
Complete, annihilation of the mind.
Annihilation of the mind.
Yes. Yeah. Annihilation of the mind. Yes. I think that's what is of importance there.
Yes.
Correct. I'll go back a couple of lines. And when he sheds his illusion completely, he finds that his mysterious sojourn has been from eternity to eternity, from God to himself. But it is not an arrival at the same point. In the shoreless divinity of the eternal reality, there are no dividing points or lines. So you cannot call it a return. It is a return only in the sense of his having realized his initial limitlessness, but not a return to some imagined point or terminus. Yes, it has been a flight from eternity to eternity, from the shoreless divinity to the shoreless divinity, from the unending to the unending. It is a fulfillment that can never become stale. No one may put the seal of fineness on this story of the invincible eternal, but everyone may disappear in it and share its unending and ineffable glory. Through the incident of imaginary creation, God overtakes himself only to discover that he is limitless in all dimensions.
So in this way, if we look at this whole chapter, it is summary, explanation, and confirmation of God speaks.
Yes.
What is explained throughout
Also,
in the God speaks.
Does he explain in the last sentence why the whim happened? Only to discover that he's limitless in all dimensions. Yes. That he wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
The book, the Everything and the Nothing, or something like that, or Nothing and the Everything. In that, he talks about how he has, as a whim, he created this all, and he is tired, and he wants to just get out of it also. So then he has to move. So even as an avataric form, when he's born as a human being, he's also born as an ant. He's also born as every animal to give the push. So correct. That when so it's not only as as an avatar in a human form, he's born in every level of consciousness to give the push to the so that he can get out of his own suffering.
Yes, that push is the one which both scientifically also it is proved that the evolution happened because of craving for new things.
Yes.
which pushed a new forum to achieve that. And further, the similar thing happens, and then you get a new form. That is both in science and also in God Speaks, we learned that as his imagination or his craving becomes more and more, he goes into another form. And in this craving, his consciousness also is increasing. And ultimately, in the human form, he comes to the knowledge that no further craving is required. I should stop at this and then try to look at something else which is more important than what I have been doing all this time. That is the ascent part of it, unwinding part of it.
So is it similar to our own existence as a human being? When we are born as a baby, they say till the age of 7, the sanskaras don't really take off, manifest.
Yeah.
And then we go through our, what I call the 12 stages of 7 years each. If you live till 84, like the Shakespeare Life is a Stage, where he talks about the different stages of a human being. So now people who are in their 50s, realize, I've done my, gone through all the sensual pleasures and indulged in it. And then we are attached to some of them still. Some of it has already dropped off. And we are in the stage, where we are actually going through this whole process. I have one question on page number 87. There is a statement on the second last paragraph. It says, on the seventh plane, the mind does not exist. Hence, there are no places, states, nor experiences in God realization, just as such places, states, and experiences are absent in the infinite unconsciousness. So, can somebody throw some light on this sentence? What does it mean? It's absent in the infinite unconsciousness.
It's basically an illusion in any case.
No, it is in the beyond state. There are no states, no places, no experiences. That is total unconscious.
Baba, basically, it's God and it's his whim. So there's nothing in, I mean, the whole thing is an illusion because it's his whim.
Right.
So, as in the beyond BIM state, which is the totally silent phase, it is totally unconscious of itself, and there is invariably there is no places, no states or experience. When we relate to states, places, and experience, it is partly duality. It is in duality. Whereas in the beyond state, it is total unconsciousness, plus it is a single entity. There is no duality. So it refers to that state, I think.
But beyond God state, state 2, when the whim happens, simultaneously infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness happens. And according to what I understood, when the whim happens, you're creating the most fundamental impression, which happens in the infinite unconsciousness, which has to go through this whole scenario. So that is why it seems like contradictory, because an impression is also a kind of a experience,
Okay.
So I'm trying to look at it like before the whim happens, when the entity opens its eyes, before it asks this question, who am I, the whim, that time you have this split between infinite consciousness and infinite unconsciousness, where both states, there is no places, states, or experiences. Is that what it means?
I'm getting confused. I need some more time, I think, in think of that.
Okay.
It seems like that, Rama.
I feel that, God, in the wholeness of God, he was, it's just like, I give you an example. I have a feeling that he was really bored. And so he said that he has to play a game within himself. So this entire game of all the illusion and everything is just a game he's playing in himself.
And that is okay. What Thomas says is that at the point of whim, both unconscious and unconsciousness start existing as a duality. Both are there. So with that, this statement doesn't gel with. I think I will have to think over that.
Actually, this is my just my thought. I think instead of saying infinite unconsciousness, it should be infinite consciousness, which is basically state 2B, the eternal
Bliss, yes.
avataric consciousness,
Correct.
which has no
Correct.
basis, states, or experience. So
Yeah.
I think this is a spelling mistake. It should not be unconsciousness. It should be infinite consciousness.
Consciousness. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably. If
Then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the infinite consciousness is Paramatma,
yes.
Correct.
Yes.
the
Probably.
Nirguna
Okay.
Nirakar state.
Yes. So we are almost out of time. So just wanted to
And
check.
if you read the second sentence, your idea is confirmed, I think. What exists in God realization of the seventh plane is just uninterrupted and
Yeah.
indivisible consciousness without any form of burden or limitation.
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Yes.
So somebody has
Good
to write to
catch.
Sufism reoriented.
Good catch, Kama.
Okay.
Good catch. Okay, so we are out of time. So, what is the vote for tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes. Any idea?
Any more beaming
suggestions?
ideas?
Any more discussion items in beams? We can do. Let me just bring up the contents.
You have marked 2 more chapters.
Yeah, that's my preference. I just want to. I would love to do Avatar as Avatar again, and yeah. So
Let's do it. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, we will finish those 2 and then go to discourses. And
Okay.
how do we go about discourses? What is the preliminary?
That me and Kama will send something to the. We'll post something.
Yes.
Post something.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
thanks everyone, and have a good day and week ahead. And welcome Ashok. Look, so we are not starting as we planned today, but we will start discourses in a day or 2.
Jai
Jai Baba.
Thank you so much.
Jai Baba.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much. Jai
Karthik.
Baba. Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Yeah, Baba. All of you have a nice day.